Hey everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome to the channel. I've got a super quick voiceover only video for you all today for China Glaze's new spring 2024 collection called Meadow Dreams. We have 6 polishes total, 3 creams and 3 shimmers. As always, down in the description box I will have links to where you can pick these polishes up. I did purchase these from Polish Pick, but I did also see this available on beyondpolish.com as well. I will also have links to the China Glaze website and social media pages, my social media pages, as well as a link to my blog post on NicoleLovesNails.com, where I host all my swatch photos, as well as provide a written review, and of course timestamps are down there as well. Let's get into this video. First up, we have Mystic Garden, which I'll describe as a pastel minty green cream. Mystic Garden had a surprisingly good formula. I always expect terrible formulas for polishes that look like this, so I was really surprised at how good this one actually was. The base itself did not feel overly thick or thin. It self-leveled really nicely as well. It did have a tendency to run down the stem of the brush, and I would also say this is not the type of polish that you want to overwork, but for a pastel green cream, I thought this had a phenomenal formula. I used 2 coats for my full-in swatches. I will, however, call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application style. This polish does not like being overworked, so if you overwork your coats or if you go in for too thin of a coat, I found you're just going to make a big mess. I personally found floating my coats on or going in for like a slightly thicker coat was the best application style for this one. That is Mystic Garden in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. Super easy removal, and I had no issues with staining. And now we have What a Dream, which I'll describe as an off-white cream. This was probably the polish in the release that I was looking forward to the least. Like, I'm just not going to get excited about a white cream. It's not my personal thing. Formula-wise, this one was definitely on the thicker side.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
I kind of feel like I probably should have used a little bit of thinner in my bottle, honestly. On the positive side, I do think if you go in for one thick coat, this is opaque enough that you can use it as a base for various nail art. My full-in swatches show this polish in 2 coats plus glossy top coat. I noticed when I was top coating that I kept picking up some of the polish with my top coat brush. I don't generally have that issue too often, especially with creams. Currently leaning towards that this polish just dried down a little bit slower than I was used to, so when I went in for my top coat, like that's why it was picking up. That's kind of annoying, so give this one a little bit more time to dry down. Based on the promo images, I had originally thought that this was going to be like a white cream, but seeing it in person, it's definitely like an off-white cream. Here it is next to like a stark white cream, just so you can see the color differences. I'd say it leans like a little bit towards like a yellowy tan next to like a true white. And now we have Fields of Lilac, which I'll just describe as a lilac cream. Much like pastel greens, pastel purples don't really do much for me. However, formula-wise, I don't think this one was terrible. Much like the other polishes in this release, it does not like being overworked. What you all just saw in that first coat was definitely me overworking the absolute shit out of this polish. And much like the other ones in this release, I'm going to call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application. I personally really like coverage on my nails in 2 coat. I had one nail that actually needed a 3rd coat because I overworked it. The overall color of this one was kind of interesting. Indoors, it seemed like it had like a little bit of gray in it. And then in natural lighting, it looked like a little bit periwinkle leaning. Still don't think this color is for me personally, but I'm not mad at it at all. Alrighty, finally getting into the shimmers. This one is called Picking Wildflowers. I will describe Picking Wildflowers as a pastel orange that leans a little bit towards coral with a strong green to orange shimmer. Picking Wildflowers had a pretty nice formula. However, one, do not overwork this. If you don't wait until your coats are completely dry, you will definitely pick up your previous coats, which is what happened to me in the live swatch, which I feel like happens a lot with nail polish if you don't let it dry completely. However, I just feel like these all dried down a little bit slower, as the normal speed I go whenever I'm swatching a polish release was too quick for these, which I don't think is necessarily going to be an issue for just like applying these onto your nails to wear as a normal manicure, because when I'm doing my nails, I do it a lot slower than I do when I'm swatching things. While I am not generally the biggest fan of peachy, corally kind of colors, I was really enjoying how this one looked on me. I feel like I can confidently say it was definitely the shimmer that got me to like this one. You do see a lot of brush strokes through the shimmer when the polish is wet, but I'd say like 80%, maybe 90% of them dissipate as the polish dries down. The shimmer has a yellowy green to an orange at extreme angles color shift. For those of you who care about such things, I think this might count towards like the Pantone color of the year. Like, it seems to be within that same color family. That is Picking Wildflowers in 2 coats plus a glossy top coat. Super easy removal, and I had no issues with staining. Next up is Meet Me in the Meadow, which I'll describe as a pale spring green with a green to orange shimmer. Meet Me in the Meadow had a similar formula to the other shimmers in this release. On that first coat, it looked a little bit dicey, but depending on application, it's going to be a 2 to 3 coater. For whatever reason, these polishes do not like being overworked. I don't know if it's because they're so pastel-y in base or what, but they just do not like being overworked. I was so pleasantly surprised to see the shimmer was color shifty in this polish. For context, I do think the shimmer is the exact same in all 3 polishes. It just kind of looks a little bit differently depending on the base color. I will admit, I started liking this polish a lot more, mostly because it made me think of Twilight.
This is the skin of a killer, Bill.
But I also recognize it's not terribly hard for me to make connections to pretty much anything to Twilight. My photos show Meet Me in the Meadow in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. Again, I'm going to call it a 2 to 3 coater depending on application style. If you aren't a chronic polish overworker, you could probably get away with 2 coats. Last but certainly not least, we have Lavender Haze, which I'll describe as another pale purple base with that same green to orange shifting shimmer. Lavender Haze had a pretty good formula. Again, first coat, very dicey, but I found it built up really nicely for me in 2 coats. And again, it's going to be a 2 to 3 coater depending on your application style. I did find in general these all applied best with like normal to thick coats versus super thin coats. If you can make the coat thick enough that you can just float your brush on, these are going to apply much better than if you really dig into the brush. I will admit, I do think as a whole this collection might be a little finicky for application if you don't have like a really good technique down. I didn't initially think that when I was doing my full hand swatches. It wasn't until I went to do my live swatches that like I found myself struggling a little bit more. The shimmer in Lavender Haze looks so beautiful in that pale purple base. My photos show Lavender Haze in 2 to 3 coats, easy removal, no issues with staining. I had originally thought this would be so similar to China Glaze's Bloomforia. This came out in a spring collection a couple of years ago. We're just looking at the bottle side by side and here it is on the nail. Obvious the 2 polishes are not dupes. I found Bloomforia to be a little bit more sheer than this polish was, but I feel like I prefer Bloomforia a lot more than I prefer this one. As far as my final thoughts go for this release, while I fully recognize I am not the pastel release girl, that's just not what I personally prefer, I think the color story on this is fantastic. Once again, I'm brought back to the Twilight Meadow scene. I do wish the overall formulas on these weren't so finicky. I feel like if you have any kind of general issues with applying nail polish evenly or even quickly, that you could potentially struggle with these. I didn't even notice that when I was doing my full hand swatches. Again, I only noticed it when I was doing my live swatches because I recently changed my live swatch finger and I'm still getting used to painting my thumb this way. So overall, I don't think it was a bad release, but I think it also could have been better. As far as top picks go, I'm going to go with all 3 shimmers. I am not too sure when promotion officially starts for this release. I would imagine it has to be fairly soon. I have all kinds of links in the description box to places where I've seen this one online. Some of those links are affiliate links, so I do receive a commission if they are used, but please don't feel pressure to use the affiliate links. But you know, if you do, it does help out the channel a lot, so thank you if you do decide to use them. Shenanigang, thank you all so very much for all your love and support. It means the world to me. I will see you all this Friday for our channel members exclusive live stream. So just thank you all very much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what everyone thought of this release. You planning on picking up, already picked up, you know the drill. Have a fantastic week, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.